For the next 2 hours, be prepared to open your mind to the edgier side of the metaphysical world. The topics may prove to be disturbing to some, but are all a part of the world in which we live. Welcome to the Rev and Witch Show. Hey, happy Wolf Moon, everybody. Welcome to the Rev and Witch Show. Hey, actually, the true Wolf Moon, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was actually last night. And, well, at least here locally, it was an amazing sight. And I really hope that, well, all of you got a chance to put out whatever you think that was really needed to be cleansed and to be recharged. I mean, a lot of people don't believe in that. And for years I didn't. Of course, I was never really a stone guy, so I just thought I would try it one time, and boy, I'll tell you what, it really does aid in especially in healing. So the Wolf Moon is something that was really, really special. Anyway, Marla Brooks and I have a really great and interesting show for you guys tonight. And I'm going to turn this over to Marla, who's going to tell you about our great guests.
Well, that's a good thing, because we do have great guests. So they will far outshine us tonight, I think.
I hope so.
Which is never bad. We have Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, and you know them from Coventry Creations, and you might remember them from being on my show a few months ago, talking about the Akashic Records. And at that time, we didn't have a whole lot of time to cover everything, and there was so much to talk about and so many things that we invited them back. Now, Jacki is the founder and president of Coventry Creations and teaches classes, consults spiritually, hosts Keep It Magic Radio, and she has spent 20 plus years dedicated to making magic happen every day. She's also the author of the best-selling and award-winning book Coventry Magic, and contributes articles regularly to Retailing Insight, a trade publication for the New Age industry. Now, Patty is the chief candle goddess at Coventry. She's an author, teacher, Reiki master, healer, and as they say, all-around modern-day saint, which is a good title to have. She's also the co-founder, teacher, and director of the School of Akashic Healing, where she is an Akashic record reader and healer, and also trains others in the Akashic healing methods. Patty is the founder of Winding Road Publishing with her award-winning Healer's Almanac, Wisdom of the 21st Century Goddess. Wow. That's so impressive. Yeah.
It really is.
And now the show's done.
No, it's not. No, it's not, guys. You don't have, not by a long shot. But before we start, I just want to invite anyone who is listening in. If you're on Skype, you can Skype me at or Rev Tim Ghost. I'm sorry. And if you're in the chat room, you have a question, just private message me and we'll get it out there. Now, ladies, the Akashic Records. I mean, this concept of there being such a room that every one of us could, access to find out everything that there is to know about each other, or I shouldn't say each other, it's all about us, in this lifetime, past lives, and the future. This room isn't science fiction to those of us who work in the metaphysical world. I think before we go any further, it would be a good time, ladies, if you guys would explain just what the records are and well, where they can be found, how they can be accessed.
You want to take that, Jacki, so we don't talk over each other? So the Akashic Records are just the natural repository of all of the information that makes up who you are right now. All the thoughts, intentions, events, happenings in your life and in past lives and between lives, and so there's a lot that goes into our soul, our oversoul, the whole magical being that we are. And the Akashic Records is kind of like that glue that holds it, not necessarily glue that holds it all together, but where we can go and access all of that information. I like to call it the playground of the gods, because this is where you also interface with the divine. So it's just a very powerful place to be, and it's yours, and you don't need special permission to go because you're already there. most of the time.
Now, myself personally, I mean, I got involved with working with the Akashic Records through my years of mediumship, and I'm always interested in how other people have gotten interested in it. So, ladies, I'm not sure who wants to jump in on this one, but how did you guys get involved in this? What brought you to the point that you guys really sat down and said, you know, this is a topic, this is a concept that is useful for personal growth?
I'll go first this time. This is Patty. I first was introduced to the Akashic Records via working with Jackie and a few other healers and mediums. And I was the facilitator for them. And we kept finding this place that we were told was called the Akashic Records. And I said, I've heard about that. But it was fun, and we were learning about our relationship with the Akashic Records and what we were to do with them. And Jackie was told that, you know, she's going to be working a lot with the Akashic Records, so get comfortable here, and she can tell her story. But I was always the person giving the message, and oh, you're the Akashic Record person, and I'm just here to be the bridge. And I never really considered myself being someone who was going to be going into the Akashic Records, helping other people see their records, and using it as a healing tool. And then one evening, Jackie and I got together with another friend of ours, and Jackie said, let's try it. Let's go into the Akashic Records, because she'd already been doing that. And we found out that during our healing work, working right in the Akashic Records, our work went faster, deeper, grander understanding of what's going on, deeper healing. And then, you know, as they say, that was history. I loved it, and it made the healing work so much easier. And, gosh, you know, I've been absorbed in it ever since. And that's inspired me to help write the coursework of the School of Akashic Healing. So now I teach other healers to use the Akashic Records as a tool for their healing practice.
Literally.
Well put, Marla.
I literally fell in to the records when I was in doing an appearance in Massachusetts, and I was doing readings. And as I started doing readings for the clients, I would just I make a heart-to-heart connection when I do a session with somebody, make sure I'm going into the core of the situation rather than just what's on the surface. And I kept going really deep, and I had this one woman in front of me, and I just literally kind of fell through her heart into Akashic Records and went, okay, where am I and what's going on? Because all of the information was brighter, faster, there was no struggle, it just was flowing. And the answer I got was, you're in the Akashic Records. So I said, okay, all right, I got this. I've got this, I'm going to keep going. And then that's how it was from then on when I would do a reading with someone, is I would connect through their heart into their Akashic Records. Now, really, what I've learned since that first time is that I'm helping them get into their Akashic Records, and I'm kind of just tagging along and watching the process. I don't know if we can really go into someone else's Akashic Records and muck around, but I can guide you. I've been in my own Akashic Records so often that, and I developed a connection with the process of the Akashic Records as I understand it. That's one of the things, is that each person is going to have their own understanding of the Akashic Records, because each person has their own collection of experiences. So I can't totally dictate to you what you're going to experience, but I can share with you my tools. And every time I have a session with a client, we learn new things.
Wow, that's what it's all about. Now, I've got a question for you, but a question just came in from the chat room, so we'll address that first. She wants to know, do the Akashic Records have anything to do with Carl Jung's collective unconscious?
I believe that they do. Go ahead, Jackie.
Because I believe that they do.
We are in agreement.
I think When I was working with Storm Sestavani, who's I do a radio show with, and he's also studying psychology, and we have a lot of Jungian conversations. And he was talking about how Jung really describes the Akashic Records shy of calling them that. And I think what I had already studied of Jung, because all of your experiences add up to the whole, I think that kind of spoke to me without realizing it. Because I can't say I've studied Jung. I've read some books, but he's prevalent everywhere. So it's kind of leaked in. But did you know that Jung's mother was a medium?
Really?
Yeah,
Right.
Jung's
So
mother
he was involved in metaphysics from, diaper on. He was enmeshed in it.
And his thesis paper was based on if mediums are really talking to spirits or if they're diving deeper into their own collective unconscious. So, yes, I think it has a lot to do with it.
Wow. Okay, great. Now, what percentage, and I know this is, you can't give a fair thing, but what do you think the percentage of people actually utilize the records in their day-to-day lives?
Well, we believe that 100% of us access our records constantly, all the time. We're linked to them like we're linked to our higher self, and we're always linked to our soul. Because sometimes there really isn't a difference as far as the experience of it. But every time you pray for an answer or need inspiration, or you're working really hard on solving a problem and you finally figure it out, that is you getting the download or the open feed from your Akashic Records. Because when you send your intention out, whether you're just working in your awake life or you're under in a meditation, it's the same thing. You are sending thought out with an intention attached to it, and just like throwing a pebble in the water, the wavelengths go out, the waves go out, and they hit something and that resonates with it, and it comes back. And so I use that as a metaphor as how the records kind of work. You ask for something, it responds to you.
So it's not
by
just
sending it back.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean, there are people that consciously go into the records, but you're saying that we all do subconsciously or unwittingly or whatever as well.
Yeah, and that connects it to the Jung question, because he explains the unconscious and the subconscious in great detail, and for the most part, some of that reminds me of what we see and experience while we're consciously in the Akashic Records, like when we're going on purpose with an agenda. So, in your imagination or in your unconscious, in your dreaming, that all is on some form or some wavelength. It's you're connecting to your Akashic Records.
Well, my question that I often field is that is everyone's experience traveling to the hall similar, or is it something that might be different?
It's different. I mean, there are some, like I said, there's some tools that we have learned to use, and there's a few standards, but they're going to look different with every person because everyone has a different set of circumstances that allow them to become comfortable, safe, and experience growth. And my Akashic Records look different from the first time I went in there to now.
So
it's a very symbolic, along with Jung, it's a very symbolic experience.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the collection of the records. The formation of the records hinges on your everyday actions and how you may interpret those everyday actions, and your reaction to a lot of the stimulus that's coming on, and how you would go and react and look at these things and use them as life lessons to try to better yourself. So it's right. Possible, basically, to change these records, correct?
That's correct. That's That's what we call healing, healing process.
Well, but the reason why there is actually a little bit of method to my madness is because I had worked with soul retrieval, a shamanic way of healing, and some of the shamans would use this where they would actually access a great, and I'm just going to simplify it, a universal thought, a universal area where all of the knowledge of mankind, including your lives, are kept, and bring it down. What I found fascinating about this is that it can be found in so many different cultures. And what I loved about your book was actually you brought that point out. Mesopotamians and well, tell everybody a little bit about all the different cultures that actually work with and we won't exactly call them Akashic Records because everybody, I think, has their own name for them, correct?
Correct.
There's, Edgar Casey called it the Book of Life, or God's Book of Life, I'm sorry. There's Egyptian references. There's even more stuff that we found that we did not put into the book, but they got the word Akashic came from the Theosophical Society and Madame Blavatsky. She brought that Eastern philosophy word into that. So there's a lot of core into that Hindu Eastern philosophy of the sacred space or that ether space that they talk about. But there's also Gnostic writings, the Aquarian Gospel, where which the Gnostic writings, I mean, they're a little, for some people, controversial, but where they talk about that book in that place. But in the Torah and in the Bible and in the Quran, actually the Quran is considered your Akashic Records. And it's interesting when you talk to different people, I just lost the word, priests and rabbis and these guys, they talk about how everything everything in your life can be explained within the Torah or the Quran or the Bible just by doing divination within it. So those books itself can be considered the Akashic Records, the Book of Life. Then Greek mythology, there's lots of stuff in Greek mythology. But even in Native American cultures, when I talk to different folks who talk about the cosmology in their culture, they talk about how all of life is written in the trees and et cetera. And so you can tap into your part of that life by tapping into the energy of the earth around you. The earth holds all of your memories.
Hey, Jackie, I don't know if you remember, but the first time we were told that, we were working with the Akashic Records and there was a history of record keeping in your soul's journey, they referred to the whales and how the whales held the history of the world in their DNA. Oh, yeah. And that was maybe possibly the first segue into trying to explain what it is that we were getting into. Mm-hmm. So they, like the trees, they were referred to the whales.
Well, that's really interesting.
And,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Please.
Oh, no, just Moses, one of the most famous references of the Akashic Records is when Moses was speaking to God and said, if you, in a nutshell, I'll recap for you. I don't have the exact phrasing, but Moses said to God, hey, if you forgive all these people, I will give up my entire existence, and you can strike my name from your book if you will just save all these people. So that's one of the references within the Bible that talks about that there is a book where things are kept.
Well, I was very much impressed by the fact that you did mention the Quran, and I work with a gentleman who really studies the Quran, and you guys actually had a quote that he brought up, and I'm going to share it with everybody. It's from the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and the quote is, "This age will comprehend but little of the works of purity and love, but not a word is lost. For in the book of Allah's remembrance, a registry is made of every thought and word and deed. And I thought that is the absolute perfect definition of the Akashic Records, because these records hold everything. It's this universal knowledge that we can tap into to help ourselves and to be able to go and share it with others. And I think that's so fantastic. Now, before I go on, as a mediumship instructor, I am often asked about, well, how to tell what is a true visionary experience and what just might be imaginary. You know, I mean, especially students are just starting, it's hard for them to discern which is their fevered imagination jumping around and what may be true visionary experience. For the listeners, could you guys explain a little bit about how they would know that difference?
I find that the easiest way to get in tune with the higher knowledge, the Akashic Wisdom, and get out of your own space is to look for your feeling of happiness, of bliss, of acceptance of you, and look for this purity which doesn't have any kind of judgment in it or any kind of scolding or anything. So you're in your Akashic Records when you are being helped but not being told, where you are being inspired, and you come to your awareness through a process rather than, if we compare it to a reading, like a tarot card reading, for example, you sit down and your reader's in front of you and they're looking at their cards and they're checking out your energy and they're doing their best to tell you about yourself and tell what's going on, underneath what you're consciously aware of. In your Akashic Records, it's not like that. You are guided to become aware of things, and the respect that Spirit has for us as brilliant beings on our own is so high that there's no you're not put down. You're not you can't figure this out yourself. We're going to have to tell you. So it's a very uplifting, light experience. Even when you're looking at difficult things, you're always treated with respect and honored.
It makes perfect sense. Now, a lot of people don't realize, my mentor used to tell me, listen, if you think in your heart of hearts, and truth has to be, whenever we work with this, whenever we work with the Akashic Records, whenever we work with visionary experience, mediumship, or wherever, prophecy, I think the main concept that's so important for all of us to go and really, really practice is honesty. Can we be honest with ourselves? Can we be honest with others? And people don't realize that, being a sensitive or whatever, when you're working with this, you have to say to yourself, is this a true experience? And my mentor always used to say, Tim, if you feel that it was a true experience, then it was. If you feel it was just mere imagination, go back and do it again. And see if you can repeat this vision that you may have conjured up. And I got to tell you that I have never been able to do that. No matter how hard I tried, I would picture something and there would always be something different. But in true visionary experience, it had a repeatability that just seemed to reinforce that belief that all of this was coming together. Do you find that being truthful with yourself is one of the most or more important things that you can do to help yourself in this process of accessing the records?
For me, it's number one. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, I'm going to push back a little bit because I think truth is subjective. Because my truth today is not the same truth that I had even last year. So I think as we learn about ourselves, we can find more and more of our spirit and our divine being. But one of the things that kind of gets tricky is some people equate truth with absolutes. And truth are not absolutes, and because it's a very malleable, mutable thing. When a lot of times when people say, well, I just can't see my records, I just can't connect to them, or I don't know if I'm really in them. One of the things that I was taught when I started working with spirit and some mediumship was that the divine works through your imagination, and that your imagination is a very, very magical thing. So to let my imagination fly free. So if I'm seeing a polka-dotted dog walking through the middle of the room, I got to say, I'm seeing a polka-dotted dog walking through the middle of the room. And every time I finally let my imagination start the conversation with spirit, I find that somebody says, oh, that's mine, and when I was 5, I made the dog polka dotted. And everyone will laugh, and I'll say, wow, that's crazy. So truth is a very fluid thing, and I love it. It's really important in finding what you think is the truth, but diving deeper into it is what the Akashic Records help us do, because we think my truth is that, I don't like men with beards, and men with beards are horrible. But then and they frighten me, and so if I dive into the Akashic Records, I might find, there's that layer of truth on top that says men with beards really do frighten me, but let's find out why. So what's underneath it is that I did not have a great experience with men with beards. Well, then what's underneath that is that I really, my father had a beard and he left me when I was 5. So you got to find what's going on underneath, and not just settle for that, well, I just need to speak the truth, because truth can then become the persecutor in our own lives. So that's my pushback.
Well, no, I have to agree with you 100% with that, because truth is subjective, but the problem is a lot of people are not truthful with themselves, even in everyday life. So truth sometimes has to be taught to the student. Don't you agree? Common sense sometimes has to be taught to the student. And what we have sometimes is that people, they walk into these classes that we're instructing, and everybody's truth might be different, but there are some guidelines and boundaries that need to be followed. And sometimes these people, what happens is I found that they go, and if they run off with something that may be imaginary, all of a sudden it feeds their ego instead of feeding their skill level and feeding that animal, or I shouldn't say the animal, but the healer within them, to go and take the knowledge from these records and apply it to whatever, like especially in the cases of soul retrieval, to go and be able to put the pieces back together, take that broken psyche and put it back together, and try to heal it and try to understand it. And that's where,
I love...
Oh, sure, go ahead, please.
No, please, just continue. No, continue.
Oh, no. So I guess basically what I'm trying to say is sometimes truth has to be gone, and it has to be shown through example to the student so they understand it. That was the point that I was trying to make.
I like how you talk about... is it feeding your skill level? Are you learning new things and going deeper? Or are you feeding your ego and your self-importance? Because that ego loves to be fed. It's a nonstop eating animal. And I use that with myself when I'm working with this on my own, but also with clients. If it feels too fantasy and I'm too much of the hero, we're working with fantasy rather than with healing work. But that fantasy is important because it's the story that your ego is telling you. It's a story that it needs to feel important, and then you can follow that in to find out why it's put that story in place to protect you.
Agreed. I have to, once again, I agree with you, because the ego is something that can be, we all need ego in order to bring our own true personality out to do this work. But yet the ego is that that maniacal, hungry animal that just loves to be stroked and fed, you know? And that's where you have to be so careful. And you guys as instructors, you guys know that, because sometimes your students will, you know, they'll veer off to the left a little bit more than what you want. And of course, I mean,
they look to be validated too, because they're bringing their experience to the table and they're kind of asking you, what do you think? Is this true? And I find that when I'm guiding someone in the Akashic Records, especially during a healing session, truth is very multifaceted. And when the truth is only focused on, you know, ourself, you have to know right away that it's heavily filtered. It's heavily filtered with my experiences and what I believe in, and just, you know, where I'm at as a person and as a soul. And as soon as the other facets of the truth become revealed, like the other people involved and the historical events that led up to developing this truth, once they all become revealed, the truth becomes multidimensional, and it brings so much more awareness to me or to whoever I'm working with, that it enriches me, and I become more aware of what it means to be a person and what it means to share space with all the other people in my life and in the world. And truth does change when you become more aware and more self-aware, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And you're listening to the Rev and Witch Show here on the Para-X Radio Network. And I'm going to grab one more question, because why? I have the board here, and I can mute Marla if I want. But I'd like to ask you, ladies, the process of itself of reaching a state of consciousness where we can open this door to the eternal library is something that everybody can do. And what I want to ask you is this achieved through guided meditations? And in many cases, such as those who buy and read your wonderful book, which I love, is this almost a form of self-hypnosis?
You could call it that. I mean, you could call it your own guided meditation. A lot of people love guided meditations because it helps prompt them to the next step and going deeper and deeper, and you know, calming yourself and getting into those theta waves. But connecting to the Akashic Records can be done through just quiet time where you're just musing and daydreaming. But we do have a guided meditation in the book, which makes it really easy to slip in. It's not hard to do. It's not dramatic, and there's not a whole lot of steps to it either. So we find that our students, our clients, love this process that we wrote, and that it makes it really, really easy. There are times when you are spontaneously there, just like when Jackie was doing a reading, she was spontaneously, you know, there. And the big question is, where am I? And then you're answered. You're in your Akashic Records. Oh, that was easy, but I didn't go through the door. I didn't, go out down into the roots of the tree, or however you were going to go there. Those guided meditations are just there to help you focus and get out of the mundane world and into your imagination and into this meditative state where you can be connected with the larger experience of yourself, which we're calling the Akashic Records.
I want to jump in for a second, only because there was a little discussion in the chat room, and Jackie kind of answered it. And then I want to talk about the room itself and getting there. But some people think that going into the Akashic Records is going to help our future. You know, we know what's coming up and blah, blah, blah. But what I think I found most fascinating in the book was that there is a record of every millisecond of our lives in there. And not just the current life, the past lives too. I mean, it's like a record of our being from life to life to life to life, and into the future. So one always kind of helps the other, does it not? I mean, in order to move forward.
Sometimes little bits of your past are driving the bus and you didn't realize it. And that's the best way to describe it. It's like, oh, I didn't realize my fear of losing friends was totally in control of my life, that it was making all of these decisions for me, and it was causing me to become codependent and do this and do this and do this. And so why do I have all this fear of losing friends? And then you find out that, there was a moment when you were 5, or there was a moment in a past life, or there was a karmic lesson that you're going through. And that when you heal that, you go, oh, you know what? I'm going to clear, you feel free to clear the decks of the people who are unhealthy for you. And then you get to move on and find really amazing friends, or leave the state that you're in to go with that dream job, or make different decisions that aren't filtered through a fear or a block or like a karmic lesson that is causing you to decide things differently. And that's how I use the Akashic Records quite a bit when I get stuck on something. And I get afraid. And then I want to know, is this going to turn out okay? And really the answer is always yes. It has the potential of turning out okay. So let's just look at what's between you and whatever you're afraid of turning out okay. And right there is where the healing and the magic happens.
Now we have a question, Justin from Canadian Sherry, who's in our chat room, and she would like to know: can multiverse or alternative timelines, even with changed decisions and destinies, affect the Akashic Records?
Yes,
Patty knows a lot about this.
The Akashic Records is energy, and it is unpotentized energy. Has that potential of being unpotentized, meaning it's free form. It hasn't been named and sent in a direction yet. So if you go into your Akashic Records and you want to send, or you want to make a change in your future, or you want to connect universes, or get in touch with your multiple self to facilitate a positive direction, you go into your Akashic Records with that intention. And what intention is thought with direction, and thought is energy. So really, if you don't have your thought defined or chosen, it's just shooting around, limited. So to answer the question is, yes, you definitely want to go in and affect the energy in your Akashic Records. That's how you are created, how we create ourselves and create our lives. And the cool thing is that we don't do it from our personality and from our ego. Patty doesn't jump into her Akashic Record and say, I want to be ruler of the world, and boom, it happens. I get to align myself with my soul and my higher self and with God's intention for me. And I use the term God because I know that there's lots of terms for God, but I just use it as this is the bigger picture of me is God, and we work together to direct how and where we want to go. How do I want to learn my lessons? What challenges do I want to put in front of myself to really bring home the type of growth that I wanted to experience? So there is that part of the Akashic Records that is waiting for you to touch it, to put it into a direction. And it's yours. It's in your room, and you're not going into the Akashic dimension as a whole and touching it that way. You touch it through your room and just like through your path. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And speaking to like the alternate yous, it's like another dimensional you, like let's say there's another me out there who doesn't have red hair. I don't know who she is, but
how dare she?
I know, right? I don't know how she's existing without that. But let's say there's another me out there in another dimension that's I need to learn from. So there's so many paths that you can take in your life, and it's a crazy experience, and you can, kind of lose yourself in all the possibilities. So I just ask the records if there's, what do I need to know? And there's been times when an alternate me was shown where I made a different decision. And so that helps empower me on the decision that I made, and that that I can do things differently, or maybe this was the best thing for me. But you can learn things from those alternate dimension selves. And it can be really fun. There's just it's unending. It's unending, the things you can learn, and you can get as become the metaphysician to the nth degree with alternate this and supernova that and multiverse this and
But that's why we can look at our past lives, though, so we can look at how that past life version of us, and what were we trying to accomplish, and what didn't we finish that's, running into this life, whether it's just learning to experience that, that success in that way. We're going to experience the success in a little bit differently, maybe as a person of the opposite sex, or maybe with different kinds of challenges. And we do that with the negative experiences too, with poverty and loss of love. We use those experiences to teach us too, and they carry over from lifetime to lifetime, and that's our opportunity to continue to build on what we started in the past. So they teach us things, they build character, and they allow us, when we look at our past lives in the Akashic Records, it allows us to have the advantage of that perspective, because things look differently when we're a child, and when we're an adult, we can answer that same question differently, more mature with more experience. That also works with past lives too. And our past life selves can help us now. Sometimes we're better at something in a past life than we are now. And so there's things to glean from our past experiences to help us now, and then there's also things to heal from the past that we weren't able to get over back then.
Now, we're getting a little bit close to break, but we still got a few minutes. And we've been talking about the door, opening the door. We've been talking about the room, and some people may not know what we're talking about. As it happened, when I first read your book and was reading kind of a meditation about how to get into the realm and into the room and everything, it took me there, which, as you guys know, was a big surprise to me. But what do you tell people, because you were talking a little bit about meditation, or, what kind of a mindset you're in when you do it, but what do you tell people who say they absolutely cannot get there? Kind of like when people say, well, I can't meditate.
Well,
Jackie, I was just going to say, Jackie's got a great story about the resistant visualizer. Remember from one of our classes?
Yeah. So when you have the resistant visualizer, they usually expect it to be kind of like Ghost Whisperer, where I close my eyes, or I have this visceral three-dimensional experience of another realm. And that takes me back to when I was being taught some mediumship tools where you just tug on one word. You just relax, let your imagination take over, let that first thing come to your mind, and let's say it's the color blue. What does the color blue mean to you? Well, it's a blue shirt. Well, where is the blue shirt? Well, it's on somebody. Well, who's wearing the blue shirt? So you just tug on that and ask yourself those questions. There was a gentleman who he was in 3 of the classes. I was at a convention in three classes in a row. And in every class, I'm like, well, I didn't get anything. I didn't see anything. Literally the only one in the room. I didn't see anything. And there's nothing that shakes your confidence when you've got the really loud person who says they didn't get anything out of it. So I was like, well, there must be something wrong with you. And I said, no. I apologized immediately, and I said, I'm just kidding. That's what we tend to tell ourselves. It was a really great recovery. and that there's something wrong with us that we can't get in, and it's just that. And this is when I tapped into the Akashic Records, and I said, I need help. And I said, it's just because that you expect too much out of this moment. You expect it to be like the Ghost Whisperer, or that you see all these really three-dimensional images, and it's very, very soft. It's very cloudy, like a memory. And so I do an exercise. If somebody is that resistant visualizer, we do an exercise where I help them remember their childhood bedroom. And in remembering their childhood bedroom, when you walked into your bedroom door, how many windows were in the wall across from you? Where was your bed? What color was your room? Were there any toys on the floor? Was this a happy place or a sad place? Tell me about a memory. So it just, because it's the same energy that you're using in your mind. Maybe, I don't know if that's the right term, but that exercise helps you relax those expectations. So when you, in mediumship, when you tug on that word, or you say, well, there's a woman here, and then you start, people who channel will ask themselves that question. Mediums will say, young or old, what race, what this, what that. So that's how they gather their information. And so I just can teach them the same techniques. And then once you get into the fluid.
I find that if the guided meditation starts out controlled, you're seeing this, you're doing that, you're going here, you're experiencing that, you're feeling that, and then all of a sudden there's an element in there that wasn't included in the guided meditation, then you're starting to go with the flow. You're starting to allow yourself to experience the energy of your Akashic Records, the energy of your unconscious, and what your spirit is trying to break through to your consciousness and bring you that information. So when you start going from a controlled guided meditation into a spontaneous experience, allow yourself to relax and say, I'm here, I did it. I cracked the code. We want to be in control, and mostly it's because we're scared. And sometimes admitting I'm scared to do this, it is the compassion you give yourself that says, okay, we can do this now. It's almost like you're encouraging, a young person with trying something out for the first time. They don't want to fail. They don't want to get hurt. They don't want to be frightened. So going in that way helps too.
Yeah, well, I know, I had my WTF moment when I all of a sudden found me there. Here I'm doing research, and hey, look around. Oh, my God. Or goddess, depending on. But it was really kind of very telling about how easy it is to actually do it.
Right.
Because especially when you're not planning to do something and it happened, you don't have any walls up. You don't have that fear that you just spoke of. You don't worry about anything. Oh, well, I'm just reading this, and then you're there and you go, wow, it's really kind of amazing. Mm-hmm. Now, we were talking a little bit, and I think we'll do this after the break. I want to kind of talk about the doorway, walking into the room, how to get, that kind of thing, because people don't know what to expect. Some may say, well, okay, I'm sitting here and I want to access my records. Well, how? Where? What? When? That. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll just do a little bit of 101 after the break. So in the meantime, everybody, you're listening to the Rev and Witch Show with Reverend Tim and me. And our guests tonight are Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, and they're talking about their book, Do It Yourself, Akashic Wisdom. And we'll be back right after this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Rev and Witch Show. Our guests tonight are Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw, and they are the authors of Do It Yourself, Akashic Wisdom. And off the air we were just chatting a little bit about my opinion, but as if you guys don't know that I have a little of opinion on everything. But I have to tell you guys that if you are serious about learning how to work with the Akashic Records, and I know a lot of you are healers, a lot of you guys that are listening in are mediums or psychics or sensitive or whatever you want to call yourself, seriously, buy this book. I highly recommend it. I really do, because I like things, and it may be it may be a reflection of the way I think, but I like things that are very, very simple. I like things that are very, very clear, down to earth. I'm a guy that has to do the, keep it simple, stupid methodology in order to understand things. And as an instructor, I have to say that I recommend this book for everyone from novice levels straight through to advanced, because everybody will get something out of it. And not only will you get something out of it, it is a book that I personally will reread over time so that it refreshes and reinforces my belief system. So, guys, really, it's a great book, and I can't say enough good things about it. Marla, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Blush.
I was just thinking that for you, Tim, this was almost like Akashic Wisdom for Dummies, right?
Well, that's exactly it.
Well, we did flirt with that name.
Well, see, what? Everybody laughs about me because I'm one of the biggest books for idiots or books for dummies collector there are in the world, because basically it probably reflects the reader, so you know what I mean. But I like things that are very, very simple and easy to understand, and I'm one of those people that really wants to go and learn. I want hands-on learning, capabilities, and I want those opportunities, and that's what these always afford. The Do-It-Yourself Akashic Wisdom is a phenomenal book for that. It really is. For someone who is in the metaphysics, this is a great book on that topic, because I've read other Akashic Wisdom and Akashic Records books, and some of them are pretty lofty. Now, I'm not saying that, lofty isn't good, but I'm saying that sometimes lofty is lofty, and you get somebody like me who reads it, and 20 seconds later, I'm like my Labrador. I don't remember a thing. But your book...
Well, I'm a little ADD myself at times, and I get lost when I am reading a book, and there's lots of books that I read from really intelligent, gifted folks, and sometimes I just feel like that. I'm a Virgo. I like things. Just don't give me the unnecessary stuff. Give me the basics. Give me the facts, and give me the tools. And so that's kind of how I roll with that, and extra words, extra this, and I'm a self-initiated kind of person, so that's
and we both like to learn from stories, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I'm blushing when you're gushing, so thank you so very, very much.
and Marla will tell you that I'm pretty tough on a lot of different things, and I'm not a real when I critique books, that are sent to me. Sometimes I won't have the author on because I'm not real happy with what they say or how it's written or whatever. Your book, one last time, your book should be used from the novice to the advanced, because it's written in such a way that everybody will get something out of it. Now that's enough. I'm done. I'm jumping off my soapbox. Marla, I'm turning it over to you, kid.
Don't fall, because it's a very tall box that you stand on.
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Be careful. Be careful. All right. We were going to talk a little bit about the classic version of getting into the Akashic Records and the room and the realm. Classic version, because it will differ, as you said earlier. So tell us about what people can expect to see if they don't have any other expectations or whatever, and how to get there.
Okay, I'll take a shot at it, Jackie. We guide our readers to go through their heart chakra, because the heart chakra is the seat of the soul, and it is physically, that's not the exact word, metaphysically connected to your soul, to your Akashic records, through that heart chakra and then through the aura and on out. So it's a natural place to want to be seated as you take this journey into your Akashic records. And then the meditation goes on to take you through a visualization of seeing a door, looking at the kind of door it is. Also helps to prime you for your experience. If it's a contemporary door, it'll kind of set the tone for the experience in one direction. If it's an old-fashioned door, sometimes we like to think that you're getting the message that, well, you're going to be looking at past lives or your childhood or something older than today. So we guide you to go through that door and as a visualization. And because doorways represent moving from one dimension to another. It's very natural to say, let's walk through this door, and when you step through the threshold or over the threshold, you are now in another dimension, and your unconscious or subconscious will click and say yes, and they do it for you. It does it for you. And you will enter this altered state, and your brain waves will respond to that. And imagination, which feels like it's controlled by you, shifts into this lucid dream kind of situation where Marla had said, I was doing the meditation, all of a sudden the meditation was taking over and I was following. So, and that's kind of the experience that we hope to guide you to get into. So walking through the door and into the room, you're guided to look around and see what's there. But we have some triggers, like there's going to be a storage information system. It can be anything from computers to an old-fashioned library to stone tablets, trees. It could be a stand of trees. Anything that speaks to you will show up. There'll usually be a place to sit down and look at your records, whether you're looking into a crystal ball or a dusty old book. And there'll always be some sort of source of light, whether it's a nice gentle burning fire in the hearth or a skylight above you. There'll always be some sort of experience of an enclosed space. You'll have walls and a floor and either a ceiling or stars above you. So you feel safe, so you're enclosed. It's unnerving for us to be always floating and then trying to manage the floating and then looking at your records. It's distracting. So it's made into a room because that's what we're used to. We're used to being in a room, standing on a floor. So we take that distraction away from you. And then after that, it just goes. And you can start with your intention, like we talked about before. Why are you here? What do you want to find out? Do you want to heal something? Do you want to learn something? And just go from there. We guide you to be aware of your guides that are there. They may be in disembodied voice, or you may actually see a light source, like a spectrum, or you may see an actual person, or you may see just a head. So it's different things that you'll experience there, and we leave it really open-ended for you, so you have time to fill in the blanks with what your true experience is coming to be.
So basically, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but there are a couple of basics that kind of get you, like kick you kind of into the realm, into the door, and then and it's all. I think last time we talked, I kind of compared it to Harry Potter's room of requirement. It is what you want it to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you want it to be. You can be your own interior decorator. You can make it anything you want to be. And I think a lot of people do this, and correct me if I'm wrong, they will go there because they have created such a cozy and comfortable environment. A lot of people may just go there and sit there, not necessarily looking at the records, but kind of maybe as a timeout as well.
Yep. Yeah. And just keep making it more and more beautiful and sanctuary-like, and it could end up being a meadow if you are an outdoorsy person. The nice thing about going into the room is finding out more about yourself. There may be things that are in the room that you hadn't thought about in a very, very long time, but you absolutely love, and they bring great comfort to you. And I think when you really let go and let your Akashic Records speak to you through these visualizations, that you will start to find out the bigger story of you. And it'll start bringing in the impressions from your soul. Because it's not just about this life. It's not just about what Patty's doing and I transition that into my room and duplicate my life in this room. No, it's more about going into the room and finding out what other personalities have I had, what other challenges have I looked at, what other things have I gotten into that are just fascinate me. And it's fun. You're kind of getting to know yourself all over again.
I want to talk a little bit about getting into the room again, because we went fast just a few moments ago talking about how to get in the room. And because it is that easy. In meditation, focusing on your heart chakra, visualizing a door within your heart chakra, paying attention to what that door looks like, saying, this is my Akashic Records, and then walking through the door and walking in. It's that easy. And as I take different clients through that, we created a more in-depth version, a longer meditation to get into your Akashic Records, because sometimes you need a little wind up. It's been a rough day and you're scattered, so you need ways to recollect yourself. But however you collect yourself spiritually and get back in your body and be able to spend that time relaxed and focused, it's just about going through your heart chakra. And once you get there, there are the Akashic Record keepers who will help guide you. You can't screw it up. You can't mess up. They won't let you, number one. Number two, it's your stuff, so it's okay. But some people say, well, what if I go and I break something? Well, you're not gonna, because they're not gonna let you. You're gonna see the information that's laying on the surface right now. The stuff that's really bothering you, that's the blister, that's irritating your life. That's what you're gonna see first. And then from there, you will start digging down. So don't worry about breaking something, and don't make it difficult to get in. Because when I was trying to recreate this, after the first couple times I went in, I was trying to explain it, and I went a little poetic on it, and I lost everybody. But then when I went, okay, everybody breathe into your heart chakra, visualize the door, boom, you're in. Granted, I was a little longer winded than that. Everyone got it. So it's a lot simpler. That's why we're so excited to do this book, is because whenever I would start to look into the Akashic Records in the past, it's like I had to be a member of that club. I wasn't good enough. I had to do so much. I had to, fast for 20 days before I could get into my Akashic Records. And that is absolutely a viable way to do it, but my life moves way faster than that. So 20 days of fasting is not top on my list.
Neither is it on mine.
No, it's unanimous.
Yes. Now I have a...
Well, sorry.
Go ahead,
Back in
please.
the day when the Theosophical Society was first bringing the idea of going into the Akashic Records, they did recommend all of this fasting, and they didn't really tell you how to do it, but they just said it was a really good idea to do that, and you have to purify yourself and prepare your physical body to take this trip. So, they set the tone for, this is only for special people or people who are willing to do the training for it. So yeah, that does discourage a lot of people from trying, saying, it sounds really complicated and scary, and maybe I'm just not cut out for this, so I'll just pass. But as we have in the book, the Akashic Records want to be found, and that's why they are so easy to get to.
Well, so many people go and it's through, I believe, self-aggrandizement, where they like themselves or their organization to be set apart. So they will go and they'll tap some Eastern traditions, Native American traditions, because I myself have done the Vision Quest, I've done Sweat Lodge, you have to, there's a fasting, there's a ritual fasting, everything that goes with it. And I have to say that whether I eat or not, so long as I don't overeat, I've never had a problem with meditation. I've never had a problem with mediumship. I've never had a problem with actually accessing the records. So, this is something that I believe that, once again, it's almost like religions. Sometimes these traditions were created by man. The records themselves, they've always been. So I believe that so long as you have the proper mindset, you can reach them. Now, I have a chat room question, and this is something that I've been asked several times, and I want your take on it. Can a medium access snippets of a client's records to help them either heal themselves or clarify an important question that they may have about their life's path or work.
Yes, they can, and Jackie and I both have practices that are based on using the Akashic Records of our clients to help them get clarification on something, to heal something. And that is exactly how Jackie found the Akashic Records, was during a psychic reading, and she fell through because she set the intention to be in that space of universal knowledge. Is that what you called it, Jackie? I don't remember what you called it.
Yeah.
And then when you set that intention at the beginning of the reading and connected with your client's heart chakra, you were sucked into the Akashic Records, because with that intention combined with that you wanted to be in service for somebody, just it lined it up for you. So absolutely, I'm done. Go ahead.
I think it kind of works in this way. So, one of the things that the keepers have shown me in very harsh terms is that I cannot go in uninvited into someone's records and muck around. They do not like that. They frown upon it, and they will put a big block in your way. And I've tested this a couple of times because I get a little stubborn. But what they showed me is that where your Akashic Records intersect with another person, because all of our Akashic Records touch each other, and that's how we learn from each other, and can tap into some inspiration that's maybe outside of our experience. So where our Akashic Records overlap and touch each other is where we can kind of go in and help someone in their experience. So when I'm sitting down with a client, or a medium is sitting down with their client, and even without saying, I'm using the Akashic Records, just working with a client, their Akashic Records are touching, which is, and you have agreement between the two that there's going to be healing that takes place, so that medium can go in and help their client. With a caveat of, sometimes as a healer, we come up against something that client is not interested in healing. Their ego or their fears or something within them is too invested in that. Or maybe there is an outside influence that is too invested on that being there. And then that's when some expertise comes in, and we got to learn how to go around to the left and go around to the right and find out what's underneath that and help that client unravel and become willing to heal.
That makes sense. And it's like that, not even just with going into Akashic Records. I mean, we all know that when we do readings on people, sometimes stuff that comes up for us isn't something that they want to hear. And you do have to kind of, back up and, like you said, make a turn to the left, do the hokey pokey or something, just to kind of make it all right, because some things to some people are extremely, extremely touchy. Now, go ahead.
I was just going to add the point that just because we're going in as healers or mediums or the guide doesn't mean that we have all the authority, even if our clients invite us in. We answer to and work with the guides that are there. And the guides bring to us and to our client what is the most important thing for them to know in the moment to help them get to the next step or to conclude something that they're asking about. So it's really quite organized. If my client invites me to do a healing session with them and they want to work on why they're having such a hard time finding their dream job, the things that are important and the first things that are important for them to become aware of and heal and resolve are brought to the table first. And then we work through the layers until the person is gone as far as they can. And then they come out of the session and they do their real life work. There's usually some homework or some, supportive things that they do for themselves, some self-love kind of techniques. And then when they're ready for the next, series of lessons, we can go back in together. But we're always guided by the guides, their higher self, and it's done in a very to me, it looks very systematic and organized. But it really is. Whatever you're ready for, they bring it to you, and it always makes sense from my perspective.
Yeah, I think some people are worried about that they're going to bring something that they're not ready for, but I kind of
think it's near impossible.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel ready, or it scares you, or rocks your world a little bit, the truth is Tim likes to sign it. What's the truth of the truth? The truth is actually you were ready. You're just a little shaky about it. But when in hindsight, you'll say, what, I actually was brave enough for that. I just didn't believe in myself.
Mm-hmm. And that's all part of it. Now, since it's easy to get in the room, and that, as we were talking about, we can also make the room our happy place and make it a comfortable place to be. Is there such a thing as entering the Akashic realm too often, as in addictively? And what's an Akashic hangover?
Go ahead and answer the first part of that.
Okay, to be addicted to your Akashic records, you got to look at what in your waking life are you trying to escape, because certainly in your Akashic records, you're the queen or the king of your world in there, and it's all about you, and it's just a giant bath of unconditional love, and your guides and gods would love to hang out with you forever and ever and be there, but you've got work to do in this lifetime. So if the guides are finding that you are in the Akashic records to avoid something that you need to follow through on in your waking life, they'll tell you. And they might even lock the door on you a couple times. I don't know. I've never had that experience, but I would imagine that if you've gone to that unhealthy place or imbalanced place about your routine, they'll let you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
And with any, there's that self-knowing that we talked about earlier. There needs to be some self-knowing on whether you're taking it too far. Because if you are that addicted to it, because by the way, it's a lot of hard work when you get in there. So it's kind of like getting addicted to doing, Shanti's Insanity every morning. It's hard to get addicted to that. Because you have a lot of work to do. But if you find that you're going and you're fulfilling a fantasy of yours, you're not going into your records anymore. You're in your own fantasy realm.
Mm-hmm. So where does the hangover come in?
The hangover comes in is when you do that hard work and you've done some really deep work and you've made some big energetic changes and you have a healing crisis the next day. And a lot of times those healing crises, we call them healing hangovers, it's because your outer world is not in line with your inner world yet. You became an empowered woman, and you still work for that jerk. You got to go to work for the next day, and he's still the same guy that you work for that tries to disempower you. That's when sometimes things butt up against each other, and that's that healing hangover. And it's okay to say, okay, this is real life taking it hold here, and now I need to use my new tools to get through that.
Because you find that you start reacting to it because your outer world or mundane world isn't moving fast enough for you. So that jerk in your life still, is not treating you in an empowered way. But I healed that. That's when you can react to it, get depressed or sad, or even come up with some physical symptoms just to have an excuse to go put the covers over your head. I'm sick. I gotta stay home from work for 3 days.
What it is you go out into the big bad world and you prove your healing. You test your own healing, and like a very good friend of ours and client, Patty, did some work with him on some interpersonal issues with relationships, and the next day there was an uproar in his life, and so he was like, what the hell just happened here? Well, what happened is that you changed the contract, you changed how you want to act in the world, and you're not going to be the codependent one anymore, and the people around you can feel it. So they are going to fight to get back in that space. with you to go, because that was more comfortable for them, even though it's not comfortable for you anymore, and they liked it. So they're going to fight to return to that space, and so that's a little bit of that healing hangover.
Mm-hmm.
And our guests tonight are Jacki Smith and Patty Shaw. Their book, Do It Yourself, Akashic Wisdom. And you're listening to the Rev and Witch Show here on the ParaX Radio Network. Ladies, I have to say that this is really, it's an honor to have you guys on tonight. And I mean, I've got as many questions as Marla does, as a lot of our people in the chat room are to have for us. But as I was taught by my mentor, that we often access the Akashic Records, yet many of us never realize that we're actually doing so. Is that correct?
Yeah, I agree with that statement. And we had mentioned earlier before that you get that aha moment, that inspiration. You're pondering something, and then it comes to you. I believe that you've tapped into your Akashic Records on an unconscious level. It came through. It fought its way through the din of your mind, and there you have it.
Now, I have a question really quickly from our good friend Henry, and he'd like to know if you know where the word Akashic actually came from, and that's something that I'm not sure of myself.
Yeah, we do. Actually, we found in our research that it is from Middle Asia, Middle Eastern resources, Sanskrit. It's a Sanskrit word, and it's two words meaning space and, help me, Jackie, space and knowledge, or space and wisdom, something like that.
A divine space in the ethers. Yeah. So it's broken down into two parts of the word. But and here's the interesting thing is that so it's the Kash means to radiate or shine, so that's the divine part, and the Aka is the ether or space. Mm-hmm. So now here's an interesting thing that I read on a Sanskrit scholar's website. So I need to qualify this. So this is one person on their one website saying that they are a scholar of Sanskrit, that they think it's a made-up word from the Theosophical Society. Maybe it's as in the English language, we do tend to borrow words from other cultures, beat the crap out of them, and make them our own.
Isn't that the truth?
But it really doesn't matter, because we have a collective consciousness and a collective agreement as to what that word means, which means that divine space, our own soul space.
Now, I've got a personal question, and this is something that, I like to bounce off of you guys. We live in a time of uncertainty. We really do. I mean, political pressures, rapidly changing communications, different things that are going on, politics, finances. Do you feel that accessing these records will actually help the individual find their way in life and allow them to achieve the success that their life contracts that we all signed up for before birth will actually go and be successful at? Do you think that's possible?
I do.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it, and we help other people do that. And for me, what I find that the rhythm of the healing, the pattern for people is moving through from feeling challenged and not being able to live comfortably through the challenges or cope with the stresses, and kind of, begging off, just saying, I can't deal with this, somebody take this from me, I don't want to be responsible for this mess anymore, and someone take this from me or do it for me or make me blind to the pain, within me or around me. And then we develop all these relationships with these entities and demons and other things that will be more than happy to take away or pull off our responsibility, which also pulls off our own personal power. And when that happens, our life starts to kind of shudder, and it doesn't work as well, it doesn't flow as well. And then we feel shame when we do that because we actually know we're better than that. But when we chicken out and allow someone else to be responsible for us, we kind of get off the path. And so going in there and looking at, what did I do? What did I agree to? Where did I come from as far as, what's my history, can show us how we locked up our energy so it doesn't work for us anymore, because we build everything off of the energy that we create from it. So if it's not available to us anymore because we've, said, I don't want it, I'm scared of it, we find that we can't make money happen. We can't make love happen. We get angry and dark, and we start hurting ourselves and hurting other people, destroying the environment, get greedy, believe there's not enough for everyone, and then we have this condition of our humanity as it is right now. So individually, each person going into their Akashic Records and working with their own personal issues and why they hate themselves and why they hate the world, and undoing that and healing from that, the world will reflect that. And then all of a sudden, well, it's not such a bad place here on old blue marble. I don't know how long it's going to take, but each person has to learn to be responsible for themselves again. Mm-hmm. That's the short answer.
Well, that makes sense.
That's the short answer?
Sorry.
Gee, that's what I tell Tim all the time. What?
My short answer was yes.
Uh-huh. See, you're very pragmatic on that. Yeah. All right, so we were talking a little bit earlier about some of the tools that we use in the records. Well, we mentioned that there were tools. So now maybe is a good time to explain what kind of tools are up there for us to use.
Go for it, Jackie. Get your toolbox out.
There's some of the basics that we find in the Akashic Record Room. Again, these are names of tools, but what they look like may be different. So there's your record. That's your first tool. It is the story of you and how that story is communicated to you. So that might be books or movies or, crystal holograms like they have in Superman. Who knows? It's however your imagination wants to see that and what you feel empowered with. Then you have, there's always somewhere to look at things, somewhere comfortable to sit, a table to look at. And that might not seem like a really important tool, but it helps you feel comfortable where you are. Another tool that I use quite a bit is one of the ones which you'll like, Marla, is the cauldron.
Yay! Sorry.
we call it the cauldron because cauldron is a place of rebirth, but it's also a place of, it's a really handy tool. It's big, it's metal, you can put a fire in it and burn things up too. So it's something if you need to, let's say, do some rewriting in your book or get rid of a chapter, so that's one of the ways we use the cauldron. There's healing waters. If you need the healing waters, they're there. This is that room of necessity, because I think room of requirement is actually trademarked. So we call it the room of necessity. And so there's healing waters. And Patty has this beautiful thing that she taught me that she learned from Eckhart Tolle's work, which is the pain body. And when we have a really painful experience, there's or a repetitive experience, there's a pain body that kind of layers upon our aura. And when you go into the healing waters and it helps dissolve that pain body and you're released from that spiritual habit is what I call those quite a bit, because it's what you know. And it's hard to move on when you still have that pain body repeating that message over and over again. Other tools that I've used in there, we use, although it may not be in the book, I use mirrors quite a bit. And that's where we look at that alternate dimension self or the older self or younger self. People are familiar with looking in mirrors, and that can be a very comfortable thing. let's see, there's tons of tools, and all of a sudden I'm forgetting them.
There's the gift. We talk about the gift in the book.
Yes.
It's something that's presented to you that represents the power that you gave away. So it could be a trinket, it could be a crystal, it could be a symbol or a token. So you had one client that got a red ball, and that empowered her because the red ball came with a dragon. And so her inner child, whenever she was frightened by somebody who intimidated her, her inner child would just, in her imagination, hand her the red ball, and she would know that she's got a dragon backing her up, and she's okay. She doesn't have to be really afraid of that situation because that dragon's not going to let it overpower her. And it gave her the space to practice confidence in her waking life, amongst people and situations that were, causing her to want to stay home instead of go out and enjoy her life.
In the chat room during the show, somebody said, I went into my Akashic record room and all my books were checked out, which is very funny. And
hilarious.
And I did have a comment for that because I did have a client who said, there's nothing in my Akashic record. There's nothing here. And so then the question became, why isn't there? Where is it all? And the lesson for her was she gave all of her power away. So her books came back to her like soul parts, where she got her identity back. So it's all of that is all of these tools that we use, like the gift, soul part work, or the screen, which is great because that helps you understand, gives you an objective look at the story rather than
like a movie screen.
Yeah. So you can watch the big drive-in movie screen, and it tells you the story of what happened, so you don't have to go in through an experience again. So you're just watching it as if it's a movie. So all of these tools are symbolic, and they help you make sense of all this energy, because I don't think we really have a language for this energy we experience. So we got to take our language and morph it and use pieces of it in our imagination to understand how to work it.
Now, guys, we talked a little bit about the air, or a little bit off the air, about a topic that drives me insane. I'll be honest with you, it drives me insane. It's a topic, I'm just going to say the section in your book is entitled Clearing a Demon from Your Akashic Records. Now, I have been inundated from September through mid-November of 2013 of a lot of people who really should read your book. The problem that I have is that so many people out there, they lack the education, and, I'm going to be honest with you, if you really truly wish to clear yourself of like these attachments or whatever you want to call them, but we were never taught demons and angels when I was growing up, but I'll just use demon as a generic term. You can do this by yourself. So could we talk just a little bit about this? Because I've recently had this conversation with a pretty well-known demonologist who's a friend of mine, and we both came to the conclusion that you can do a lot of this work yourself. And a lot of this work is either self-created or you lack the belief that you can do it. So could you guys just talk about this? Because I find this fascinating. And again, I'm going to just come right out and just unabashedly say, you guys actually get this whole concept. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, demons, the job of a demon is to scare you. That's its job. It's to disempower you, and it takes whatever form, big, bad, and ugly, to do that with, and to convince you that it is stronger than you. That's the demon's job, right? And a lot of times the demon's job is to anchor in a fear. Our ego will let that, our ego works basically to protect us. So the ego creates different fears and stuff. And I'm simplifying things here, and I know that it can be much more complicated than that, but getting down to some of the basics is your ego will invite in that demon to anchor that fear in you and to keep that as a personal truth. That you can't do anything about this. So if you understand that's the job of the demon, is to be big, bad, and ugly and to scare you, then it's easier to deal with.
Exactly.
Then we can say, oh, that's your job, to be a jerk. So we're going to change the script here, and we're going to see what's underneath that, what's hanging, what that demon is hanging on to. So that takes the scary out. And the first time I experienced that was not as easy and simple as that. It was a very visceral, I could feel it moving through my body kind of experience, and I'm like, oh, here comes the exorcist, I'm not having it. So it was not pleasant, and it was really, really scary. And I was freaking out, and Patty was with me, and she goes, stop it! Because she saw the picture from the other side.
Right.
This is not that scary. You've made this bigger and badder and worse than it really is. So, and honestly, I think when we talked about it later, when we did our postmortem on that healing, it was like, oh no, I was scared too.
They're very good at their job.
Yeah. The other thing is that it's something that a video game programmer told me a long time ago, is that it takes a lot to program a monster in the game. There's a lot of code that has to go in. So they don't want to put in unnecessary code. So they only put the demons and the monsters and the big uglies in to block the actual path. So when you're actually going in the direction to win the game, that's when you find the monster. When you find a monster that dies really easy, or you can just wave away, or is a hologram, you're actually not going in the right direction. And I loved that analogy, because isn't that true?
It is. I agree 100% with you.
When you're not going to waste your own psyche and your own spiritual makeup is not going to waste the big, bad, scary stuff on going in the wrong direction. It's going to, when you come up on that demon or that thing that feels like you're too scared to move on and move through, that means that you're hitting on something really, really good.
The other thing about demons is they're there, they're the flowers on the wallpaper that you don't even see anymore. But as soon as you are there and moving to that next step in your evolution, you're figuring out that thing that you needed to figure out. Oh, now I know why I'm having trouble having a loving relationship. That's when they pop out, because you are actually taking a step in the right direction, as Jackie so eloquently put it. The other thing about demons is that you have a choice. Are you going to believe in the demon, or are you going to believe in yourself? And that's the question that is more important than actually what the demon looks like, smells like, feels like, and what it is telling you. Because he's really just talking to your ego and your personality. He's not talking to your spirit, because your spirit will laugh and say, get out of here.
And there's also a lesson with that demon. So, and the little tiny bit of Kabbalah study that I've done, one of the things that I was just fascinated with is that in the Kabbalah they talk about how the demons are of our own making. They are made up of our negative thoughts and actions and words. And not that we actually created them, we created the space for them to exist in.
It's like calling them to you? Yeah.
Yeah, so we chose, and that's actually called a klipot, if I'm saying it right. So whenever you have a negative action, you create this space, this empty space between you and the divine, you and the light. And this empty space will fill with negative angels or demons. So you have some atonement to do, mostly with yourself. The more you call in positive energy, or you can even call in the archangels to help you clear that space. That's part of how you clear demons.
Too many people hand themselves over. Oh, poor, pitiful me. instead of going and taking the time to understand what's going on. And I love the way you broke this down. It's such a wonderful, wonderful methodology that I'm going to share with other people. Number one, listen, we're all scared. You mentioned, you can feel this negative energy go through you. I mean, I've walked into places that you could almost want to throw up. You can feel it. The air turns heavy. Something gets a little, something is not happy with you being there. Yeah, what do you think? I'm human. I'm scared. Of course I'm scared. I hate going into places like that. But you know what? You don't panic, because the minute that you panic, you're no longer in control of the situation. If you are involved with something like this, you turn around and you get yourself back in control. And when you said call on the archangels, it doesn't matter if you believe in angels or not, guides, positive energy, whatever it is. Exactly. Bring it to you. Bring these people. You know what? The entities on the other side want to help. I love this part. Ask the entity why it is here. Because 9 out of 10 times when you sit down with a client and they have something like that going on, guess what? The client already knows why this entity is there. That 9 out of 10 times, they know it. So by questioning them, having them question the entity, or questioning the entity through them, now you've got a solution. That's your first key.
They're facing their fear, too.
Exactly. But this is the one that I love the best. And I mean, we've covered fill the void with light, divine light, white light, because that's very important, because a void will collect negativity. But, oh my God, again, you guys get it. Take responsibility for yourself and make amends. 9 out of 10 times, these clients have done something that opened the door, and it's up to them to figure out what happened. And I mean, we can do this through guided meditations, we can do this through the use of mediums, but people don't realize, you walk into a house, there are certain benchmarks that we look for. Chaos in the house. I'll just do a common one. You walk into a house, it's a hoarder's house. It's chaos. What do you expect? The negative energies only fill in these chaotic, these terrible places where, people feel helpless. Make your changes. If you've lived a crappy life, make amends and change. But people have to understand that they can take the reins and they can work with it. Thank you so much for putting that out. I absolutely loved it. It just, the minute I read it, my ears perked up and went, the book is worth buying just for this. They get it. I've been preaching this for years. They get it. When we get together with other, I know some exorcists and I know some demonologists and stuff. And when we sit down and we're comparing notes about different cases, every time, these are the points that we all make. And when we go, and if I have something, I send it to a friend of mine who looks it over. He comes back with recommendations. These are primarily the recommendations that either I'll send or he'll send back. So thank you for putting that out there. It's phenomenal.
You're so welcome. I recently had a client who, and I'm getting this out just to understand how, because you understand how crazy it can get. But this woman was having physical manifestations where light bulbs would explode around her and things would break and there would be scratches on her body. And I got to tell you, when she came to me for a session, I kind of was like, I don't know if I can do this.
First, you know what? We all do that. Every one of us.
Yeah,
Yep, every one of us does that.
I said, yep. I said, okay, guide me. So I opened myself up to my guides and my divine allies, and I said, I can do this. We can attempt it. We can do a layer of it at the very least. I need you to guide me. And I'm not saying that I'm a miracle worker. The client did all the work, and I was the guide. Without the client's agreement, these things couldn't happen. And what there was such, there was unfortunately, and this is one of the few readings I actually teared up during the process, there was such an intense amount of abuse in her childhood that's what created those negative voids is what created the opportunity for this. And so that flip side of that can happen as well, but then it becomes more believable than the divine. So we brought the light back in, we did all that work, but then helping her own how she perpetuated this and helping that process. It's not easy. It's hard work, but it can be done. And she did call me a couple days later saying, "So are you saying that this was all in my head?" And I said, "No, I'm saying that you're that powerful."
Exactly.
You're that powerful to allow this and allow this to grow in your life, but you're also that powerful to remove it from your life. But if
she's extremely focused. Yeah, she's focusing on it and believing in it really intently.
So it became, what do you believe in more? What has more value to you? What's more important to you?
Exactly.
And so now she sends clients to me. When Jackie helps you do something, it sticks. But really, it is her. I helped her find the way and gave her the confidence. I helped her find the confidence in herself to say, this is having a light in my life is more important than this.
Exactly. And oftentimes we find that rituals help, but the client themselves can do this work. Rituals are nothing more than tools to reinforce to the client that they have control. And what is a ritual? A ritual is a prayer. What's a prayer? A prayer is an intent. That intent for control is all-encompassing when it comes to working with these cases. Bravo, ladies. Great. I can't thank you enough for putting it out. Marla, I'm done waxing poetic. Your turn.
Okay. Well, speaking of you and demons and atonement, with New Year's resolutions, still on everybody's mind. I mean, you talk about making vows in our lives that are broken and how those broken vows hang out in our Akashic Records and they make us feel guilty or they make us feel frustrated. How do we clear those up?
Well, I guess that's me. Well, when we make a vow, we've made a promise, and sometimes we don't really understand what it is that we've promised. But there it is, and the energy is laden with this promise, and it holds it for us. Now, years pass, we've grown, we've matured, we're like, that was stupid. Why did I promise that? That was based on a different me. And so I'm just gonna pretend that it goes away, right? Poof, it's gone. I'm a different person now. But those vows and promises are locked up energy that get in the way of you fulfilling this kind of new direction that you're going in, this new promise that you want to make to yourself. So it's great to go into the Akashic Records and redo it and analyze, why I made that vow, a promise, what was going on in my life, what have I learned since then, and set it all in a new direction. And you can do that in the Akashic Records. And a lot of it comes out of just understanding where you were, where you're going, and that you don't want it anymore. You undo it by saying, I changed my mind. And with that changing of your mind, you are also embracing how you've changed and how you understand how life works a little bit better. And it undoes the energy, and it releases whoever else was being bound in the vow promise thing, and their energy can go on their way, and they're no longer influencing or blocking you, and everyone's happier and freer all for it.
So they don't necessarily stick like glue that you can't, clean away.
Everything can be changed and healed. Everything from a vow and a promise, which is like a contract light, a diet contract. So contracts are much heavier and more involved, and there's more energy and commitment there. But it all can be undone. And I say it's simply changing your mind. It is simply changing your mind, but you do have all of that introspection and that understanding who you are and what you were trying to accomplish, what you were hiding from, and why you were giving your power away. Or why were you trying to
Right.
manipulate the situation? What were you thinking you weren't going to get? What were you being possessive or obsessive over? So again, it's the atonement thing and the getting real about your motivations.
Sometimes when we find a vow, and it's very self-created and very self-limiting, is we'll take someone back in time to the moment that it was created. And this is the great thing about Akashic Records, is because they're very timeless. You can go back into that moment where that vow was created and redo it, rewrite it. So then those soul parts that might be sticking to that unfulfilled vow, fulfilled vows we don't have a problem with. Those are done. It's the unfulfilled vows that can cause trouble. So you go back in time and say, well, what was the vow that I made? Like Patty said, what was my motivation there? What's the better way to handle this? And we call on. I like to call on Archangel Zaskiel to help me with that process, because they'll help maybe sometimes clear up some of the damage, or he will guide me and help reword the whole situation, and help me find the belief that might be connected to the whole thing.
Now, I have a question that I'd like to ask you ladies. During the course of my own personal experiences when working with the records, and many of my fellow students also report this, we seem to meet such masters as Buddha or Jesus Christ or any number of enlightened ones. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I was met by a guy with glasses and a pocket protector. So you know what I mean. So sometimes
typical.
Sometimes an enlightened master may be not exactly what you think. But my question to you,
that's what Da Vinci would have looked like in the 21st century.
You're exactly right about that. But now my question to you is when we do ascend to the Hall of Records, are those who greet us dependent upon our own belief systems? I guess what I'm asking is that, are these the actual beings that we are meeting, or are they the perception of those beings?
That's a really good question, and I think that it's best to be open-ended about it. But there's nothing wrong with believing that if you need Buddha to be with you and hold your hand, or sit down and teach you a lesson one-on-one, then what's wrong with that? Why can't we do that? Why can't we be friends with the masters or the archangels and have that personal relationship with them and have them teach us and give us the expertise of their eternal experiences, and at the same time, the guy with the glasses and the pocket protector, that's what he looks like to you, but that might be Buddha.
Exactly. Yeah. I've often wondered that.
I like that.
But it's true, because I'm sitting in this class and everybody is sharing their experiences and they're talking about this one and that one and Mother Mary and and I'm sitting there going, I got a guy with glasses and a pocket protector, and I thought I was the anomaly of the class, but actually my instructor said that no, don't worry about who met you. It's the fact that someone did meet you and that they're going to
showed up.
Right?
That's
yeah.
good. Yeah.
At least somebody showed to my party.
I call the Akashic Records the playground of the gods, because they know this really well. This is their working space. So I think when we're working with the divine, they're working with us in our Akashic Records, whether we go in there or not. That's where they work with us at. So of course they're going to meet us there, and they know what to do, and they're really good at what they do. And I gotta say, I need to take some of the starch out of their shirts when the big, when Jesus shows up, or the big, intensive spiritual beings that I could never ever in a million years aspire to. My mind takes them down a few notches just so I can have a conversation. Otherwise, I might not be able to.
You're really starstruck.
or I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. You don't know what to be a human.
That's a really good point, Jackie, because a lot of times your guide experience is kind of tied into your self-worth and where you see that you fit in with guides, because they're mentors. And if you're going to get all tongue-tied and can't function, if Buddha shows up, then Buddha's going to take it down and interface with you where you're able to relate. And we talk about that in the book, that this dimension is about the place where we interface. Spirit brings it down, we elevate up, we meet in the middle, and it's not always clear how it's going to look. And if you're ready to hang out with an archangel, then an archangel will come and looking like an archangel. It's to meet us where we are and to help us be really comfortable. So if I'm going to fall apart in the presence of Jesus and just start blubbering, then that might not be the best thing for me. But I may need a good cry, so Jesus might show up and I'll just like, oh my God, and just have a good cry and get in touch with my worth, because we are all worthy of being in touch with Spirit however it presents itself.
It's true. But honestly, I will never look at a man with glasses and a pocket protector the same way ever again. I think he's spoiled me now. He's ruined it for me now. Well, once again, time flew. Even though 2 hours we thought would be enough time to cover everything, it's not. But we do have to go. But before we do, can you tell everybody a little bit about Coventry Creations?
Go ahead, Jackie.
Coventry Creations is my baby. Started it almost 22 years ago on my kitchen stove to meet the magical spiritual needs of my loved ones. And we started with the first line, the Blessed Herbal Candles, which we still sell to this day. And we make spiritual products. Our focus is on candles and oils by the end of this month. That we make in a spiritual space, we make in a sacred space, we make them according to the phases of the moon, and what we do is we make tools for you. You supply the magic, we just put all the parts together the way in our best possible way. So Coventry's, like I said, been around for about 20 years. We've fed a lot of families. We're a small business. We try and pay a decent wage and bring opportunity to people. Some people have gone on to start their own business. Some people have gone on to other jobs. But we certainly love what we do, and we love changing the world one candle at a time.
And what's your website?
CoventryCreations.com is our website, where you can find the DIY Akashic Wisdom book, and you can also find Patty's other book, which is Healer's Almanac, 21st Century Goddess, and you can find my other book, which is Coventry Magic. And you can find a whole plethora of candles, because no matter what you need, no matter what your problem, we have a candle for that.
You do, and it's like a playground there. It's a playground and a website, because I look at it and I start to, drool, stare, start making a list, checking it twice, realizing that it's now 10 pages long, stop, that kind of thing. So it's a great place to go. And as you said, you can also get the book there, find out more about you guys there. And so it's like your one-stop web stop. One-stop web shop stop. Yes, all right, I better stop before I
keep going. Easy for you to say.
It should be, but it is. That's about normal. So we really want to thank you for joining us tonight. It was enlightening. It was educational. I learned a little bit more about Tim than I really wanted to know. But that comes with the thing. So, Tim?
I want to thank everybody for listening in tonight. And you've been listening to the Rev and Witch Show with Marla Brooks and myself, your most congenial host, Tim Shaw. And I want to let everybody know out there that it's a beautiful, beautiful future that's coming up. And remember two things. Do some good works, and don't be a self-created victim. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
been listening to the Rev and Witch Show. Music provided by Midnight Syndicate. Copyright 2014.